The name Rose West is synonymous with some of the most depraved crimes committed in modern British history. Her actions, alongside those of her husband Fred West, exposed a level of cruelty that shocked the nation and the world. Their story is a chilling case study in shared pathology and the depths of human depravity. Today, Rose West remains behind bars, a constant reminder of the horrors that unfolded at 25 Cromwell Street in Gloucester. She is currently incarcerated within the walls of HM Prison New Hall, a high-security facility located in West Yorkshire, England. Her sentence is one of the most severe possible under British law. Rose West is serving a life sentence for her role in the murders. This designation means she will spend the remainder of her natural life in prison, with no possibility of parole. Her imprisonment marks the final legal consequence for her participation in the unspeakable acts. Give a like and subscribe. Leave a comment. Rose West did not act alone in her crimes. She committed horrific acts of violence and murder in concert with her husband, Frederick West. Their relationship was a partnership built on control, abuse, and ultimately, the systematic killing of others. Together, Fred and Rose West maintained a disturbing double life. To the outside world, they were a seemingly ordinary, albeit troubled, family living in a modest, terraced house. Behind closed doors, they were serial killers preying on vulnerable individuals. Their victims were subjected to unimaginable suffering. The Wests engaged in acts of sexual assault, torture, and degradation. These were not spontaneous acts of violence, but part of a pattern of control and sadism. Following the assaults, the Wests committed murder. They took the lives of those they had abused, often disposing of the bodies with chilling efficiency and callousness. The scale of their killing spree was vast and deeply disturbing. The total number of victims linked to Fred and Rose West is believed to be at least a dozen. While Fred confessed to more, Rose was ultimately convicted for 10 murders. The full scope of their crimes may never be definitively known. Their reign of terror spanned over 2 decades, beginning in the late 1960s and continuing into the early 1990s. During this time, they moved between properties, leaving a trail of missing persons and buried secrets. The most infamous location associated with their crimes is their home at 25 Cromwell Street in Gloucester. It was here that many of their victims met their end, and where their remains were subsequently buried. Bodies were concealed both within the house itself and in the surrounding garden. Rose West was ultimately convicted for her direct involvement in the murder of 10 young women. These convictions solidified her place as one of Britain's most notorious female serial killers. The court found her guilty of participating in or facilitating these 10 killings. Among the victims for whose murders Rose was convicted was her own daughter, Heather Ann West. The inclusion of her child among the victims highlighted the truly horrific nature of the crimes and the complete breakdown of familial bonds. In total, Fred and Rose West were implicated in the murders of 12 people. This figure includes victims linked solely to Fred before he met Rose, as well as those killed by the couple together. The 12 victims represent a tragic roster of lost lives. Disturbingly, 2 of their own children were among those killed by the Wests. Charmaine West and Heather West were murdered by their parents, a fact that adds another layer of horror to the case. The home that should have been a sanctuary became a tomb for their own offspring. Charmaine West was killed in 1971. She was just 8 years old at the time of her death. Evidence later suggested that Rose West was responsible for Charmaine's murder, though Fred buried her body. Fred West buried Charmaine's body under the kitchen window at their previous address, 25 Midland Road. This act of concealment was a precursor to the methods they would later employ at Cromwell Street. The young girl's remains lay hidden for over 2 decades. Heather West was murdered much later in 1987. She was 16 years old when her life was brutally taken by her parents. Her death occurred at the infamous Cromwell Street address. Heather's body was buried under the patio in the back garden of 25 Cromwell Street. This location would later become central to the police investigation and the eventual uncovering of the West's crimes. Her disappearance was a key factor in the case unfolding. Rosemary Pauline Letts was born on November 29, 1953, in North Devon, England. Her early life was marked by instability and abuse, factors that some have argued contributed to her later path, though they can never excuse her actions. Frederick Walter Stephen West was born on September 29, 1941, in Muchmarcle, Herefordshire. His background was also troubled, with a history of difficult family relationships and early brushes with the law. Rose met Fred West when she was just 15 years old. Fred was significantly older, 12 years her senior, already in his late 20s. This age difference and Fred's dominant personality played a significant role in their relationship dynamic. Before meeting Rose, Fred West already had a history of criminal activity and deeply troubled relationships with women. He had been married before and was involved in the disappearance and presumed murder of his first wife, Catherine Costello, and her daughter, Charmaine, the first Charmaine. His past hinted at the darkness that would later consume his life with Rose. The investigation into the West's activities began in the early 1990s. For years, rumors and concerns had circulated about the family and the disappearances linked to them, but concrete action was slow to materialize. The catalyst for the formal investigation was triggered by reports of severe abuse within the West family home. Concerns were raised by social services and others about the welfare of the children still living at Cromwell Street. These reports finally prompted a more serious police inquiry. A crucial piece of the puzzle came from an anonymous police report. This report, believed to have originated from someone with knowledge of the family's situation, provided specific information that authorities could no longer ignore. It directed attention towards the West household. As the investigation progressed, the whereabouts of their daughter, Heather West, became a key focus. She had been missing for several years, and the explanations provided by Fred and Rose were inconsistent and unconvincing. Her disappearance stood out as particularly suspicious. Disturbing comments made by the West children to others about Heather were reported to the authorities. These comments, often cryptic and chilling, included references to Heather being under the patio at their home. While initially dismissed by some, these statements eventually gained traction with investigators. Acting on the information and the children's disturbing remarks, an excavation of the back garden at 25 Cromwell Street began in early 1994. This marked a turning point in the investigation, shifting from a missing person inquiry to a potential murder investigation. During initial questioning, as the excavation commenced, Fred West confessed to the murder of his daughter, Heather. This confession provided the police with the confirmation they needed and directed their search efforts specifically to the patio area. Following Fred's confession and the targeted search, Heather's remains were subsequently uncovered under the patio. This grim discovery confirmed the children's chilling statements and provided the first physical evidence of murder at Cromwell Street, opening the door to the full scale of the horrors hidden there. The excavation would continue for weeks, revealing more victims and solidifying the case against Fred and Rose West.